Hi everyone, today let's take a look at the PCE data, then we'll take a look at all the usual data and charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So PCE data came in at expectations, 0.2% rise from the previous, and 2.6 from a year ago, slightly softer than the estimate at 2.7, so inflation continues to trend lower. Personal income increased a little bit higher than expectations at 0.3 versus the 0.2 estimate, and then consumer spending actually jumping a little bit here, 0.5%, which was in line with estimates. So overall, pretty good data here today, and that's probably why we saw markets rally a little bit off the back of this news. They did dip early in the session, but did end up rallying higher into the end of the session. Moving over to Fear and Greed Index, jumped all the way up to a 63 from a 57, and a week ago we were at a 54. So this has been trending higher pretty aggressively here over the last couple of days. Momentum still in regular greed, but it is trending higher as well. Strength not moving. Breadth continues to stay in extreme greed. So most of the metrics still in bullish conditions. Haven't seen that contrarian metric of bullishness across the board yet. And then volatility trending lower makes sense. Safe haven demand rocketing higher here today, all the way up to a 9.6. Haven't seen that in a very long time. Extreme greed on safe haven demand, while junk bonds continue to hover in this fear area. Moving over to seasonality, we did end up getting that bullishness here towards the end of the week. We were looking at about 0.5% higher over the last couple trading days, and sure enough, that is what we got. So bullishness into the end of the month, and we'll take a look at next month's calendar in the Sunday video. Moving over to the economic calendar, CPI for the Eurozone coming in at expectations. Unemployment rate slightly better than expectations for the Eurozone. You like to see that. And then PCE, lower than estimates for the year-over-year core number, and the headline number actually coming in lower as well at 2.5 versus 2.6. So inflation continuing to trend lower. You like to see it. And Michigan data actually also coming in below estimates, 2.8 versus 2.9 for a year from now. And then 5% continuing to stay strong at that 3% number. Consumer sentiment also coming in basically in line with expectations. And then Atlanta Fed GDP jumping better than expectations, 2.5%. So definitely some good data. Makes sense why markets were a little bit bullish here today. Moving over to the S&Ps, we've got a strong push here today, about 1%, right back to that trend line, almost to the penny. So we didn't get that breakdown. I thought we might see a little bit more selling here today. We did wick a new low relative to yesterday's low, but that RSI, we talked about it multiple times. This was a zone where we thought we could find some support. RSI was trending higher on the SMA. RSI touched that zone, and we did catch a little bit of a bounce. So we talked about it, ended up working out that way, and now we're at that resistance once again. Are we going to push through there? Hard to say. If we do, all-time highs are right there at 56.67. So we'll see how it plays. Right now, you have to say there's probably a little bit more bullishness in there with how strong that candle was today. And then looking at the shorter time frames here, you can see that hourly chart whipsaw throughout the session, tried to go higher early after the gap up, came back, filled the gap, touched those lows from yesterday, touched the 200, consolidated, and then two strong candles to close out the day, closing basically on the high from yesterday's candle. We're still in this kind of consolidation here. Looking at the levels, 565.16 was the upper price target if we could hold this level here, and sure enough we did. We tested it, and you can see that on the daily chart. Now we're pushing up to that all-time high level, which is that 565.16 level. Then moving over to the Tasty charts here just for a moment, you can see that upper ATR band continues to be resistance at 564.39. Finishing stock price was 563.56. So right in that range, still have not broken this bearish condition on the 4-hour chart. Super close to it, right in that zone. We did get big volume on that bullish candle, so that's something to consider. Maybe we start to look for a push to that upper ATR, which would be 569.26. But as of right now, we are still in a bearish condition. Moving over to the NASDAQ, you can see similarly to the S&Ps, we came right back up to that trend line. NASDAQ still does not look nearly as strong. From the all-time high to current price, we're down about 5.5% or so. So still well below those previous highs and well below this most recent high at this trend line here. But if this breaks, then you could be looking for a decent push. That next trend line would be about 2.8% higher from here. Momentum's not going with it quite yet. Momentum's still flat, but RSI, it broke down. We're coming to retest here. We're going to see how this plays. The trend is still bullish on RSI, so that's also interesting. If it rejects from here, however, your next trend line to the downside is going to be just like we've been talking about, the 21 EMA around 2.5, and then the next one would be about 3.25% lower to this next trend line here. So we'll see how it plays. Right now, still looks like a breakdown retest. Looking to see what happens here on that next trading session. And then looking at the short-term charts here, you can see it was some choppy price action. Again, rallied up pre-market, established this trend line here, rejected from there, hit this lower trend line after breaking through this one. This is what we were watching yesterday. So it held that early in the session, broke down. Once that broke here, I did take some bearish trades, made some money there. And then we tested the level at 471.93, established this trend line here from the previous low. And then I was watching that to see if it broke any further. And it did not. We got back above the level. So then I took some bullish trades here into the end of the session. Overall, pretty good trading for me. Structurally, this is still a downtrend. This just looks like a retracement in that downtrend. But we talked about this higher low setup yesterday, got the rally into the pre-market today. And then again, this is technically a higher low setup from this previous low. So we are having a little bit of bullishness in the short term, and you can see big volume on that last bullish candle of the day. So see how it plays. That next trend resistance is all the way up at 478.85, which from current price is about a 0.5% higher. And then the next level would be that 481.94 level. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell was up about 0.5%, right at that trend line, still cannot get above it, but it did gap up, did rally slightly, still in this bull trend, still looks okay. 221.49 would be the next level if this trend were to break, and we did continue higher from here. If we reject, this is going to be a lower high setup and it's going to be pretty bearish, potentially down in the 212 area. And then looking at the Dow, continues to rocket to new all-time highs. New all-time high close. The wick high was also higher. The trend is still sitting up there around 418.40. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Moving over to the Mag 7, I added this trend line here from this previous high to the high back here on 21 August. And since then, we've been downtrending. We hit that 21 EMA over the past 2 days. And then today, we were just off of it. The low of day was 259.30, and then the 21 EMA was 259.16. So missed it by about 15 cents. Did rocket higher. Still have this downtrend here as a potential resistance, and that is at 264.50. Did not break any of those major levels, but it still looks okay coming off of that 21 EMA. So this is a rally up. Broke the trends, retest here. Now you're getting a bit of a move up. So if this holds and we start to see a break here, 273.41 could be in play over the next couple days. So we talked about this being a zone for potential support, and it seems to be playing out that way, at least for now. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple threw a huge wick yesterday and rejected. We got a little bit of a continuation down here today. So this looks a little bit weaker than it did yesterday. We were looking for the break of 230.28, just barely touched that level. High of day was 230.40 and then rejected from there. Still a bullish trend, but doesn't look as good. And then look at Microsoft. Very strong day, 0.97 on the day. We talked about that 200 and the 21 EMA, very similar setup to the Mag 7. Everything in here as a zone of support. If the 200 broke, this was going to be awful. But since this 21 EMA has been touched, we touched it again here today and got a bullish trend. So looks like we're getting a bit of an upswing. Like I said, good setup, break here, retest, holding support, higher low setup, looking for a push. Your next price target on Microsoft would be 429.88. Moving over to Amazon and Alphabet here today, we got some bullish candles. Interesting. Amazon jumping a lot, actually. 3.71%. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Looks super good. Broke this trend line on a closing basis. And that's not something that we've seen since all the way back here in mid-July. So showing some strength. Again, similar setup. Rallied through the 21, retested that 200 SMA, and then is rallying through here. Your next price target would be 181.41. So basically the same charts with a little bit of a different flavor there. And then Alphabet couldn't quite do it, not nearly as strong as some of the other players here. We looked at this as a bear flag, and I still think that that's a potential possibility, but we hit this trend here. We talked about that being an interesting zone. That is a very important trend line here. It marks multiple tops, goes all the way back through these levels here in June of 22. Very long-term trend line. Came through, tested it. Now we're getting a little bit of a bounce from there. So inside candle, interesting. Momentum, not going with it yet, but look at this RSI. It is trending higher. RSI broke back above the SMA after a retest. Maybe we're not going to get that huge follow through that I was looking for. At least in the short term, maybe we see just a little bit of a bounce. Overall, this is still a downtrend, and it doesn't look nearly as good as some of the other charts. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, both of these catching a nice move here today, 0.79 and 1.15% on discretionaries. Big move there. Staples right off of its all-time highs. Momentum still fading, but RSI is bullish once again. Looks like we're going to get a push to a new high with a little bit of divergence. We'll see how that plays. Trend is still intact, so very bullish there. And then looking at discretionaries, we talked about a potential continuation here today. Sure enough, we did get it. 189.38 was the next level if this zone here broke. And that seems like where we're headed to. Clearly, there's some resistance in this 187.87 area. Momentum is back to bullish. RSI, once again, same thesis. Retest of that bullish SMA, getting a bounce to the upside. Seems like we could get a little bit of a continuation here. Moving over to 20 and 50-day breadth. Breadth continues to show strength. 20-day still hovering in that very elevated level. Momentum bullish. RSI still bullish. Momentum still fading. But look at 50-day here. Very powerful up day. Back above that 77.46 level. 83.83 is the next target. That's technically a new relative high, so that's very strong there. Again, showing some bullishness into the end of the week. Probably going to get a little bit of a continuation into next week. Moving over to the dollar, we did get that third day continuation, so you now have that 3-day candle pattern. We'll see if this continues. Usually once you get that third candle, you get a little bit of a pullback. Maybe retest that 9 EMA down there at 101.14. We'll see how it plays. Maybe retest the level there as well, 101.25. But this still looks very bullish short term. 21 EMA is sitting up there at 102.1. 102 is the level. So dollar showing some strength. Interestingly, seeing the dollar and equities go up at the same time. Don't see that super often, but we did here today. Moving over to bonds, J&K still not doing anything, still hovering at this high while the momentum is fading. Seems like a consolidation topping pattern at this point. Certainly could sell a little bit more here in the next day or two. We'll see how it plays. 96.51 is still support, so slight pullback could hold the level. Right now still looks like consolidation, not really making relative highs. And then looking at TLT, big crater here today, 1% down. We've been seeing the 10-year rally, and sure enough, it did here today. Pushed right to the level at 96.50, closed on it, basically to the penny. And then after hours, seeing a slight bounce from there. So we'll see if this continues lower. Let's go ahead and extend out this next trend line there. Trend support would be 95.89 if this zone here breaks. Momentum's fading, RSI is fading, so probably going to pull back at least a little bit more, about another 50 cents or so. And then if that breaks, you got the 55 all the way down there at 94.84. Moving over to the VIX, interesting, we got the continuation candle lower. It's still staying elevated, still above that 1470 level, way above this previous consolidation, but we've seen a little bit of a roll now here. So you got a high, lower high, 2-step downs, 200 sitting there at 1438. This is actually a historical normal level for the VIX, right in this 14 to 15 range. So we'll see how it plays. Momentum still technically swinging to bullish, but RSI mixed there. Downtrend, retest, downtrend. So looking a little bit more bearish on the VIX, and you can just see the general structure. It looks like it's rolling more to the downside, almost accelerating here. Moving over to my accounts, I made plenty of money here today, so you love to see it. Everything continues to look good here at 133,298, about $800 or so on the day. I traded in and out of a bunch of positions in the queues. You can see my day trade counter here at 36, trades to day 29. So I made a bunch of trades in here, made a bunch of money. I was actually trading pretty well here today. And then looking at the longer term position here, still 5 days from now at 470. I'm about $2 above my max profit, so being cautious there. Might have to roll this out to the end of next week, depending on what the price action is on that next trading day. Remember, markets are closed for Labor Day, so next trading day is going to be Tuesday. And then this expires on Wednesday. So I have plenty of room to roll this up and out if I need to, especially if we do see that bullish continuation above that trend line we talked about. So short term, have a 472 put for about another $1.50 left in that position. And then you can see still have some extrinsic value left in this covered call. And like I said, I can start to roll that out. And then on the IWM, rolled that to 217 for the Tuesday session for $3.30. So max profit is about 30 cents higher than current price. Still giving myself plenty of protection, and I'll roll this out over time to pay the least amount of debits I can as I continue to roll this out and up. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of the inflation data and what you thought of the price action here today. Does it change your medium-term thesis, or is this just another fake out, shake out before we get that bigger down move? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment value. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.